Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about Fani Willis, more or less on the warpath against perceived abuses by defendants. She, in the last day, that we had a hearing on her motion for a special protective order, and she moved to revoke a defendant's bond. Let me start with that. So we have Harrison Floyd. He's a funny character among the 19. He's not a Georgia elector. He's not in the Trump circle, but he gets involved in the harassment and sort of shakedown of Ruby Moss and Shay Freeman, the two Georgia election workers who were defamed and really, you may remember they're very poignant and kind of infuriating testimony talking about all the death threats and basically their lives being completely upended after especially Rudy Giuliani on the hustings accused them of really flagrant election fraud that was 100% false. They're the ones that supposedly had the suitcases full of ballots, and it was nothing of the sort. Really nasty, rank defamatory lies. And Harrison Floyd, he's a local player who knows a friend who knows Ruby Freeman, gets her on the phone, and basically badgers her into trying to give evidence of fraud, which she doesn't have and doesn't exist in Georgia, browbeats her, suggests she could go to jail, really like a junior varsity, you want to get your Trump badge in Georgia. And so you do the Trump playbook of harassing, defaming, really trying to intimidate election workers. All right. Since then, so that he's a kind of a bad guy, a little bit of a nut. He didn't at first dispute bond and went in for 5 days. He's the only one of the 19 who's yet been in jail. Anyway, Fani Willis moves against him yesterday, saying revoke his bond based on a pattern of discovery, abuse, and violation of his conditions of release. So remember, everyone here is released under conditions. And if you don't need a gag order, if they violate the conditions, you can move to have the conditions revoked. But what's the violation here? She points to, does Fani Willis, a few tweets, including one where he hashtags Brad Raffensperger and says, time to get a lawyer. All in all, I gotta say, in the run of things that we're seeing, especially from Trump around the country, it's fairly tame stuff. But she's, moving on it aggressively. I think, to my mind, there's a secondary audience in her motion, and that would be Donald Trump, who is everyone in these different cases knows about his abhorrent behavior in the other ones. So, in Fulton County, he's totally trashed Fani Willis, who says in her motion she's gotten hundreds and hundreds of really nasty racist tweets and the like. But at the same time, in the New York civil fraud trial and in the DC, January 6th trial, he is being vile, way beyond the pale. And I think the various judges are aware of it, and Fani Willis wants to make sure Judge McAfee is aware of it, and maybe will move on him. But I think there's a secondary audience here, which is Trump. And one important point she's making is we don't need a gag order. If you violate your conditions of release, among other things, by making improper public comments, we'll just move on you right away. I don't think that's too likely, but nevertheless, I think it's a thoughtful, if you would, saber rattling. I know that's a little bit of a contradiction in terms, but I think part of what she's doing is telling other folks, do not mess around. But to me, her case for revoking his bond is not so strong. I felt the same thing, by the way, about her motion for an emergency order, which Judge McAfee heard yesterday at 1:00. And, that really, she really broke glass and rang the alarm bells based on the release of those videos or excerpts of them from the pleas of the 4 defendants who have pleaded. But those videos went to people in discovery. There was no order not to release them. And I don't think they were, it's questionable whether they, in fact, anyone did anything wrong. One defendant finally copped to it. There was a little bit of a Keystone Cop operation where a defendant wrote, I did not release the videos and forgot the not. And made it sound as if he did. But then the person who did, copped to it in front of her. It's not clear to me that was anything wrong at the time. Now, as a basis or trigger for looking for some kind of order, okay, that's fine. Though she did it in this kind of emergency way. But it went kind of as I expected in front of McAfee, which is he was... McAfee got this emergency order from her, but also received a counter proposal from Trump and others for a milder order. And on the one hand, he did come out and say, we're going to have some kind of order here. We don't want this case tried in the press. I know there's a First Amendment right, but there's some bigger things involved now that there's charges and the like. And so he definitely came out on that side, in a sense, Fani Willis's side, but he didn't endorse her exact proposal. And he's going to write up some proposal that might be a little bit looser. For example, the Trump team wanted to avoid the requirement that they could only look at things in the DA's office. Rather, they want to sign a confidential order. This happens a lot in cases where you promise not to release it. And if you do, then you're in hot water. Anyway, he'll do something like that. I was struck, as I say, by the tone of the way Fani Willis played it. And just in general, the last few days, her sort of public statements, including the one that I've said candidly, I'm not exactly sure why she's saying it, stating that the trial might go into January 2025, a prediction that many people might make for a variety of reasons. But she to date has been very much on the fast track plan. We can do this immediately, one trial for everyone, 4 months, maybe a little bit more for jury selection and the defense. All right. So anyway, Fani Willis very much on the warpath against defendants to keep this case from being tried in the press and to keep there from being any intimidation. Well and good. However, whether she's actually going to revoke the bond of Harrison Floyd will be up to Judge McAfee, as will the exact content of a protective order that we can expect to come. But all of this in the background, in some ways, hugely in the background, is Donald Trump and what will happen, what the protective order will say, or what will happen when Trump takes his trash talking campaign from or adds to it, not just the DC case, the New York fraud case, but another round in Fulton County. And he is, as I suggested, the man in the background in these two skirmishes. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.